love. This is an interesting condition. Many of the ulama, they regard this condition as really, I don't want to say difficult, but it is hard to attain this condition. And they actually say that this is the highest station that a mu'min could ever reach, where you really, really love Allah and His Messenger over anyone else, including yourself. And although one can say, I do, but in actuality, when you really look closely at that person, it's not true that they do. They say it. Hey, if you ask me right now, I'll be honest with you, I'll say that. I don't want to displease Allah and His Messenger. Do I have some weaknesses that I need to work on? I probably do, like many of us do, that we need to work on to get to this level of al-mahabba. But really, if you look at the mahabba, it is this love that we say you love in accordance with the shahada. 1, you love the shahada itself. 2, you love what it implies, whatever it teaches. 3, and you love everyone else who says the shahada for the sake of Allah, for the sake of Allah. That you love also everyone else who says the shahada. Remember the hadith of the Rasul that says what? The two who meet, and they met strictly because of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they part strictly out of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does Allah say about these individuals? Do you know? But during the Yawm Yaqum al-Hisab, what will happen to them? They will be brought into the shade, when on that day there is no other shade except the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you come across someone like that in your life, that is why you should say the statement, Ana ahibbak fillah. I love you for the sake of Allah. First time you ever met this person, maybe your religion brought you together, some circumstance in life brought you together, and you part, and you might never meet each other again. But you came and you parted for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. If you fall in that category, Allah will shade you on that day when there's no other shade. Among those 7 that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that says will be under His shade. Right? So, remember that when you talk about mahabba, love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it comes from this ayah, which very quickly I'll just translate it. And city, then you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that one needs to not be in that situation at all in life. The true believer is the one then who meets the conditions of the shahada, puts them into action, and has no equal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their love on this earth. Very quickly, I will conclude by mentioning 2 other conditions. They are not in the hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam among the conditions, but the ulama who have compiled these conditions, they say these are also to be regarded as conditions, because the hadith only ends with al-mahabba. These 2, the ulama, they say, in fact some ulama they go up to like 13 conditions or 12, but these 2 are important, and it's natural that these 2 fall in the understanding of the shurut al-shahada. One is which, that when you say the shahada, right, when you say the shahada, فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ, that means then the one who rejects false gods and believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means this is a natural thing. If you practice the shahada, you are saying La ilaha illallah. There is no other deity except Allah. So you have to reject taghut, these false gods, that are out there. And the 9th condition is the condition that you will adhere to the shahada throughout your life. وَلَا تَمُتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, and do not die except in a state of Islam. And do not die except in a state of Islam. In Jum'ah, this is one of the ayats that are read during the introduction of the khutbah at the beginning. Many khatibs will use this ayah to remind the Muslims, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Okay? Do not die except in adherence to Islam. And so with these conditions now, they are saying that any of these conditions cannot be missing. If you need to find yourself to be among those that Allah has accepted your conditions, and that you will be a person of Al-Jannah. You accepted your Shahada. You have to fulfill all of these conditions that have been laid out. And so, those conditions, I'll start on my right with a few and then we'll come on my left. What's the first condition, sisters? Knowledge. Second? What's the second condition, sisters? Be quiet, brothers. Huh? Al-Yaqeen. Right? What are the diseases of the heart? Shubuhat and Shahawat. Which is easier on the soul? Shubuhat? Shahawat. Why? Because you can do tawbah and you can go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hopefully you'll stay away from that desire. But the Shubuhat is dangerous because it can lead you to more doubt. And the more doubt, the more away and farther away you will go from Islam, right? So those are, how do we solve the problems of the heart? Amrad al-Qulub, the diseases of the heart, that's what they call it. By knowledge, right? By knowledge and by learning, okay? Brothers, what is the third condition? Acceptance, which is called? What does that mean? Okay, that means you accept and then the compliance is next. What is the next condition? Submission or acceptance, right? Al-Inqiyad, right? Okay, and what does that mean? You perform what you accepted. Exactly. You accept it, fine, you accept this teaching, you never knew about it, it was never taught to you as a child, you grew up maybe learning many other things, but this one, somehow you missed class that day, so you didn't know about it, but 10 years later somebody reminded you and you say, oh, alhamdulillah, now I know about it, and then you put it into practice. What's next after that? As-sidq, which means what? I'm sorry, say that again? Okay, so it's opposite of nifaq, which is hypocrisy, which means you're truthful about your shahada, right? And then what is the next condition after that? Sincerity, which in Arabic is? Al-Ikhlas. In Arabic is Al-Ikhlas, which means you have to be sincere. It's interesting that that surah that really is a surah of Tawheed is called Al-Ikhlas also. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ, right? So it's interesting that that surah is called Al-Ikhlas. And sister, what is the last condition of the ones that are in the hadith with Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Mahabba. And what does mahabba mean? What do you love? Allah and His Messenger, but you also love